Hello, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on another one of our live sessions. The idea behind this is to share thoughts and plans by industry leaders in light of how much work is changing because of the global pandemic. Workana, as an on-demand talent platform, we are helping many companies efficiently source for talent quite quickly. And with these teams of freelancers, companies can get things done in a far more efficient manner. And that's just one of the changes happening to work. And we've been discussing many others in our past sessions. And today we have Zach from Curlec, and I let him do the introduction on how their company is dealing with all of this. Hey,
There you
Zach.
go.
Good morning.
Hey,
Thank
Kuku.
you. Thank you for joining me in this. Doing all right?
I'm all good. I'm all good. Thanks for having me.
All right. Yeah, my pleasure. So, can you please do first, do a little bit of an introduction of yourself and the company?
Sure. So my name is Zach. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Curlec. Curlec is a fintech company that makes it really easy for businesses of all sizes to collect recurring payments and take control of their cash flow. How we do this predominantly is through building technology on top of bank-to-bank payment infrastructure. However, we are diversifying that out of that a little bit, which I'm sure many people will see over the sort of coming months.
All right, looking forward to that. New features coming.
Hopefully, yeah.
All right. So I like the fact that you are facilitating access to an efficient way and easier way for collecting recurring payments to smaller businesses. That's a privilege that used to be reserved for the big companies, right?
Yeah, that's right. When we started off the company, I mean, maybe just I forgot to add earlier. We started off the company about a couple of years ago, and really when we entered the market, our whole value proposition was, firstly helping businesses solve cash flow issues, but really, I think, when we look at sort of the market, really helping SMEs, the underserved or underbanked segment of business population of Malaysia. These guys have traditionally not been well served by banks, for a number of reasons. One being, banks' cost bases don't allow them to go to that SME level. And secondly, it's a lot of effort to go there, and they don't have, customized solutions to go there. So that's really the gap we fill. We serve that underserved SME. We allow them to, get access to this particular payment product, the direct debit recurring bank-to-bank payment system. And yeah, serve the underserved SME.
Perfect. Yeah, love that. So back when the pandemic not started but exploded and many countries went into lockdown. Here in Malaysia, the lockdown is called MCO, and that was like by mid-March, right? Can you share a bit of how did you react back then?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, if I look back, it was a funky time, the beginning of that MCO period. I mean, I think first and foremost, when that hit, obviously it was a big shock to the system, due to the nature of the situation. Obviously, what comes first is sort of the safety of the team, the safety of the team, making sure everyone's well. And sort of when we look past that, the safety and well-being of all our customers, because, as we have seen from this pandemic, that, it's in some cases wiped out businesses, and
Definitely.
I think, and we work with a lot of businesses, and I think we're not, I mean, we've seen that, unfortunately. Some businesses obviously couldn't operate for a long period. Some businesses had to shut down. So obviously, looking out for their well-being as well, and also from our personal company well-being too. Making sure that, firstly, we can operate. We are still getting money into the business. From an operational standpoint, things still move. Going from sort of an office-based business to 100% work remote business, whilst we are sort of a tech company and everything is in the cloud, and it is a lot easier because we are, super flexible as pre-MCO or pre-lockdown. Moving to 100% work from home is, obviously has a lot of challenges, and it was a bit of shock to the system, but as I'm sure we'll talk about, throughout this webinar, some very interesting findings, and sort of as we sort of come back to some level of normality, things have changed in terms of how we operate, and even in some respects our business model.
All right. Oh, even the business model. That's interesting. The extent to which these kinds of things can shape, right, a business, not only in terms of how things are dealt with internally, but yeah, business
That's
model.
Right.
Right. Interesting. So I like this. You mentioned being a tech company, of course, everything is on the cloud. So I'm guessing not necessarily you didn't necessarily embrace new tools. You were already familiar with video conferencing software, just to name an example, I'm sure. But did you have to make changes to the processes, to the how you use these tools?
Yeah, 100%. I think, we've always had video conferencing, and we've always sort of somewhat used, internal messaging tools. I think, the reality is a lot of stuff we're still a small company, so a lot of stuff always reverts back to WhatsApp. But,
Right.
Now we're starting to get more into the habit of A, using those video conferencing tools, and B, sort of using those internal messaging tools. And it's really becoming part and parcel of sort of daily operations now. Previously what was sort of something we sort of used on the side is, really sort of slowly becoming really deeply embedded into what we do on a day-to-day basis.
Right. And even to this day, even though in Malaysia we are allowed to come back to the office, you're not at your office right now, right? Just as an example.
I'm not. No. So we, when I can't remember the dates now, I think that's sort of losing track of this year, but when MCO became the CMCO, when maybe for sort of your viewers who aren't based in Malaysia, when sort of we had the phase where lockdown was easing, we made the option available to come back into the office or to work from home. Number of reasons, whilst work from home is great, I don't think it is for everyone. When we look at some of our junior staff, having to move back home, in sort of with family members and sort of arrangements that are not sort of conducive to work, crappy Wi-Fi, etc. And some people just want to get out of the house. They want to be back in the office. So, we sort of make that option available, made it flexible. And that's what we've done. And we've continued to do that to this day. We're still somewhat assessing. There has been a case recently near our office, so we're just like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, the pandemic is not over, right? So it's not like we're talking about the past and what did you do? Rather, what are you doing right now? Because this is still an ongoing global situation. Before the MCO, would the whole team go to the office every day? Would that be the normal operations?
I'd say majority of the business. We're a B2B SaaS company, and majority of our guys will be based in the office.
Okay.
I say majority because particularly with our sales guys, they're out and about. In fact, if they're in the office, they're probably not doing their job. But so actually that statement is changed now, probably, because actually no, it remains the same. Everything can be done virtual.
Right. But it's so interesting because you mentioned that now, you make the option available, and some people, out of having not having the ideal conditions to work from home, like from the Wi-Fi quality and or general setup and whatnot, and I think we are not there yet, globally speaking, but it's a concept that it's changing so much. All of the sudden, the office becomes an asset you may or may not use, even a benefit. It's there and you can use it, but if not, up to you and your conditions. and it's a whole different notion, right, when compared to the offices where you come to do your work, which is
That's
the
right.
old.
That's right. That's right. I mean, the way in which we see the office now is completely flipped, right? You know, what we use the office now, generally speaking, is for more collaborative brainstorming type work, group work. Where you sort of there's certain things you need to do face to face, and sort of you have that human interaction. But I mean, I think the feedback we've got from the team is a lot of the stuff that they do, and even sort of meetings, client as well as internal, and sort of isolated work, they just prefer to do that from home. And in fact, they're way more productive. Everything's a way more focused when you're actually going through these things because you're not sort of wasting time throughout. So yeah, the way in which we see it, sort of working from home, working from anywhere, and sort of working from the office, they serve different purposes in terms of sort of the mechanisms of work.
Right. All right. Yeah. Perfect. What was a large portion of your customer base seriously affected by the?
Yes. So we've been asked this question a lot, and I think the short answer is yes. We serve businesses. I mean, we sort of look at a number of levels, right? We serve businesses with subscription-based models or recurring revenue models. But we also serve businesses across a wide spectrum. SMEs, on offline traditional SMEs, take a small gym, right?
All right.
And obviously those guys have been badly affected. I mean, they can operate entirely.
Right. Yeah.
But on the flip side, we work with sort of online insurance companies, online fintech, guys who we've actually seen huge upticks in transaction volumes. So it's been a mixed bag. We have seen, I mean, fortunately, we are one of the very few companies sort of out there who have continued to grow throughout this MCO. And, we are fortunate to be that, and I think, being a subscription-based model business ourselves, we're lucky, and sort of we advocate for it, and sort of it's really coming to fruition now. So, the short answer to that question is yes, we were affected. We did see businesses drop off, particularly our offline businesses, but we also still boom in the online space.
Right.
And sort of if we net it off, I think we still continue to grow a bit, a little bit slower than we're anticipating.
Yeah, but it's no small things. Not only surviving, but being able to grow is quite a thing. You mentioned, I think that was an interesting remark. You mentioned that prior to the pandemic, the sales team would be on the field, right, out there meeting clients and leads and whatnot. So if they were in the office, it's like kind of, if they are in the office, they are not doing their job, right? And all of a sudden, that's also a notion that's changed. Because now either at home or at the office, all of these meetings are now remote. Have you so the challenges you usually face when approaching new or dealing with clients and leads, how has that changed, both from your perspective and from your clients or potential clients' perspective?
Yeah, changed dramatically. I think this is sort of when coming out of this lockdown period has been, if we would think from an operational standpoint, probably the largest change, I would say. I think, I mean, Kiko, you've been based in Malaysia now for a couple of years, and I think, you've come to realize that a lot of Malaysian businesses aren't so familiar with sort of remote meetings, as an example, and sort of, video conferencing meetings, albeit in the same city or whatever. And there is that tendency to, I want to see you in person. I want to talk you through this. I want you to chat me through this. And subsequently, we come to a decision whether we want to sign up to your business or not, right? Which is great. You want to meet clients, and service them. But I think the reality is, it's very resource heavy. It's, okay, maybe a 1 hour meeting, but you forget to factor in sort of the 45 minutes it takes to get there, the 45 minutes it takes to get back, all the and we know what KL traffic is like too, and what should be a really short thing becomes a drawn out process and becomes resource heavy, particularly if you want to try and scale the business, particularly from a sales perspective. What we've now found is that just because they've been forced to now, businesses, particularly small businesses, I think the larger business, maybe it's a little bit of a different story. Particularly small business now, because they've been forced to sort of operate in a more virtual manner, now are way more receptive to doing things online. Way less requests for to meet in person, etc. And previously, I give you an example. Our sales team maybe could do 2-3 meetings in a day. They have to travel around KL or wherever it may be, and now you could sort of double that. How many meetings you could set up in a day? Purely just because you're not having to travel here, there, and everywhere. So I think that's fundamentally been a big shift. And also from our perspective, when we look internally and sort of do a little bit of self-reflection on ourselves, it's, hey, okay, as a sales team now, as a SaaS organization, we have the capability to still scale the business and to still grow and still sell, albeit not being in person. So when we do start to go into surrounding countries, and when we do start to scale the business, regionally, do we need a sales team in, if we were to scale to, neighboring countries as an example? Answer is probably yes. But does that team have to be as big as what we thought it would have to be? And the answer is probably no, because you can still service that from Malaysia. And I think tons of benefit from that. I think the obvious one obviously being cost. It's Malaysia. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very interesting, because you already mentioned that this whole thing changed, of course, not only how you operate, but also is shaping your business model a bit. And this is a huge aspect, because when considering expanding to neighboring countries, all of a sudden the plan for that, the associated costs are different. All of a sudden you say, well, maybe if I want to do business in Singapore, it's not like I need to have an actual office there with at least a sales force of 5 people. Maybe I can start probing the market with my existing sales force from here, and just and then just have one person working from home, or a co-working space, and everything all of a sudden becomes far more doable, right? Out of needing fewer resources.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very interesting. Have you hired people in the past months since all this started?
Yeah, we have hired over this period. The team has grown. I think also maybe if we're talking about sort of 100% remote work, we've actually had a bunch of interns which have come on board, which has been an interesting experience. I think all of these are sort of university grads, all from top universities, generally speaking, in the UK. And in some cases, we haven't even seen them. In some cases, one is based in the UK, another one is based, and we've got a few based in East Malaysia, one's in Singapore, and if before the lockdown, this would never have happened, quite honestly.
Right.
And we've come out of this and we've hired 10 interns who we, have never stepped foot in our office, but, have produced a ton of work, a ton of great work. And, really, I think it's been good on both sides.
That's amazing, because then all of a sudden you realize, hey, when finding talent, I don't need to limit myself to 20 kilometers around the office. All of a sudden I can go to the whole country, other countries as well, other continents. So then the pool of talent is 1,000 times bigger.
That's right.
So finding the right talent then is less of a challenge. It's still challenging finding the right talent, of course. And
yeah.
Video call interviews is not the same as in-person interviews. So a few other challenges maybe arise, right? But
that's right.
Yeah, right, definitely. So also you mentioned, for example, working a lot with non-digital businesses, small gyms, for example, with their recurring memberships. I think that's interesting because, broadly speaking, right, digital businesses are better prepared for dealing with all these changes in how we are working, because then, because of all the things we've already said, of course. But non-digital businesses, besides, of course, the actual challenges of, on some cases, not being able to even open up like a gym, how does Curlec help these kinds of businesses?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the obvious way is, we help them collect payments. But we help, so if we're sort of looking at it, if this is COVID themed, right? It's a lot of the stuff we do is no touch, no touch payments. You don't have to be face to face. You can send links, you can, help do all these things remotely. I think, our real value proposition for these small businesses is, like I said, collect cash flow, and this particular payment mechanism we're talking about, prior to Curlec, actually, it's existed. Direct debit is not a new thing in the world, right? And it's not a new thing in Malaysia either. But what it is new is the way in which you can now access it. Previously, you had to use paper to set up a recurring payment, tons and tons of processes involved. And quite honestly, for a traditional offline business, or take a SME, small gym, and to handle all that manual processing, and having to build maybe a little bit technology too, it just you couldn't handle it. It's just unreasonable to think that an SME can handle it. It's sort of where the banks didn't serve these guys, and now through our system we automate the entire process, which really does mean that I'm a small gym, and generally speaking, when you go into a small gym, who runs the show? Probably the owner, probably does the training, probably does the finance, probably does the ops as well. And now through our system, you can sign members up, you can automate this entire process of collecting their payments on probably a monthly basis, and then it really becomes an automated process. And the value proposition here is that a business like that doesn't need to think about payments, doesn't need to think about cash flow. What they can do is then focus on what they want to do, which is providing the best gym experience that they can, which is probably their expertise and their passion. So that's really how we help small businesses. And I think that's more at a higher level. But when we look at this MCO and again taking that offline experience and really what we have experienced from this, a good example here is B2B payments in Malaysia. B2B, our whole value prop, there's tons of payments is really wide in any country, right? And here in Malaysia, we got focused on predominantly retail payments, whether that's e-wallets, payment gateways, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But in the world of retail, B2B payments, incredibly manual, and we work with tons of outsourced accountants, and these guys collecting checks on a monthly basis. Over the MCO or over the lockdown period, how the hell do you get all your directors to sign off on a check?
Right.
You can't, right? So these guys have come back to us, said, "Hey guys, can you help me automating my processes, making it no touch? I can do this from anywhere. You're in the cloud." And really, by using our system, automating those processes, moving them online, we've seen, obviously shooting up online businesses, but also taking those offline businesses into the digital economy, which has been super cool. And also from a business model perspective, I will ramble on too much about this if I go any longer about it. But, again, our value proposition, we want to serve businesses with subscription or recurring revenue models. And we're building a system to facilitate all of that. And what we see is, big appetite for businesses to want to move to those models because A, cash flow, but B, it's predictability of revenue. And, again, you look at a restaurant over COVID-19, right? And you suddenly go, revenue is at, 100%, now it goes to zero. But with a subscription model, now you have the ability to have predictable income coming to your business. And I think more and more, the shift has been going on, this whole subscription economy shift has been going on, in the West. And I think it's slowly finding its way here, and sort of COVID-19 really finding an acceleration of all of that, which is somewhat cool to see, pretty cool to see.
That's true what you're saying, right? The subscription-based models, even like, for example, Adobe, right? Historically, you would purchase Photoshop license. Now it's a subscription.
That's right.
And that's happening throughout across all industries. But it sounds like night and day, right? If you are with citing your example, a small gym owner, because of not only predictability of revenue, which is a fantasy for many people, it's at that level, but also all the admin work you save, right? You don't have to chase after each and every single customer at the beginning of each month or whatever. That's gets taken care of.
That's right.
Being no touch is so aligned with the current challenges because of the pandemic that it only makes sense. Yeah, I like it. And so the next topic I'd like to move on is to looking into the future. How do you what kinds of changes you see as being here for good? So I'm guessing, of course, moving to a more of a low touch or no touch economy with these kinds of payments, such as the kinds of facilities Curlec provides for their clients, is definitely one thing. But also considering what you're seeing out of your own company, how your day-to-day activities have changed. You already mentioned how all of a sudden expanding internationally might take a different shape. Yeah, what other changes do you think that were brought about the pandemic and are here for good, are here to stay?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, when we think about an operational standpoint, the clear and obvious one is resourcing. Resourcing, and like you said earlier, no longer does a 20-kilometer or 50-kilometer radius around the office become sort of your potential talent pool. In effect, the world becomes your talent pool, right?
Right.
How you manage time differences and all that sort of stuff is sort of a different ballpark. But theoretically, the ability, some of our teams are 100% work remote now, and in fact, way more productive. So I think that's the clear and obvious one, and sort of how you scale the business to other countries, how you scale the workforce, how we plan our teams and all that sort of stuff is the clear and obvious sort of benefit that has really come out of this the whole COVID-19 situation.
Yeah, definitely. Going back to what you had mentioned, that the sales teams and the meetings they would attend, right? When all meetings were in person, they would do, I think you said they could do like 3 meetings a day. And now maybe that can be doubled. So of course, as lockdowns are relaxed, we'll go back to meeting in person, but or at least this has been my experience so far. But it's no longer that we either meet in person or we can get this done, right? Now it's, we are nearby and I have a slot next week, let's meet in person. But if not, we can just as good do this remotely. And that creates an opportunity for so much efficiency. And, as you said, going to a meeting, let's say a 1-hour meeting somewhere, you have maybe a half an hour drive, then you leave your car, you walk from the parking lot to the actual office. That's maybe another 10 minutes. You register at the building. I mean, worst case scenario, right? But you register at the building. So then you have the actual meeting, and then you undo all of that and you walk back to the parking lot. And maybe a 1-hour meeting takes 2.5 hours of your time since you leave your office and you're back at the office. And that's crazy, right? With video call, and a 1-hour meeting takes 1 hour and maybe 10 minutes before, so you can clear your mind and go to the toilet. But
yeah, exactly.
Right. And so but I those kinds of things, I like to think, not that we'll never have meetings in person again. Of course, that's not the case, but we'll go into hybrid models. And just as you said, now the office is something we might or might not use. Some people use it. Some other teams are fully remote. So all of a sudden, things that were 100% in one way, right, all of a sudden become hybrid.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
It will be interesting though to see sort of how ourselves as well as everyone comes out of it as things somewhat go back to normality. I mean, I've seen some other companies. I've spoken to other people, and other sort of tech-based companies, and saying how you manage the team. When you manage a team and everyone's in the office, real easy, right? Everyone's in the office. When you manage a team when everyone's 100% work from home, real easy. But then when you start to go into hybrid, how do you manage that? So I think it's somewhat of an interesting problem moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. So because new opportunities have their own challenges attached, right? Like working with someone, as you mentioned, one of your interns in the UK is great because now you can source talent from anywhere in the world. But with the UK, we have a time difference of 6 or 7 hours, I think, more like 6 maybe. So then maybe you want to meet at 9 a.m. Malaysia time. You can't. That's
right.
like 3 a.m. for them. So you have to wait till the afternoon.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so new set of challenges, but but it's, in my opinion, let me know what you think. I think it's definitely a step forward.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, on our perspective, similar to, I'm sure you guys as well, we've always sort of employed flexi working and work from home, work from anywhere, pre COVID-19. So yeah, it's all good. It's just an acceleration of, sort of our initial plans.
Right. In our case, we've been in business since 2012, so 8 years already. Since day one, like half of our team would not come to the office every day. So we like to think of ourselves as experts in working remotely, right? Besides, of course, our business model, that's what we want to promote. That being said, over the past few months, we still realized there were so many improvements to be made to how we operated, how we conducted our meetings, and all of that. And I'm just saying this. There's because there's always room to keep on learning. Even if you consider yourself a remote work expert, which as we like to think of ourselves, we still realize, whoa, we were sucking at doing this. Now we are improving it. It's interesting.
Yeah.
So, as a closing thought, can you share with the rest of the people in the workforce out there, industry leaders, can you share one piece of advice or personal opinion on what opportunities are there to be seized?
What opportunities are there to be seized? Don't want to give you the secret sauce here. I think, if we sort of see what, on a more general level, if we're sort of, looking at businesses and what this whole pandemic has provided the opportunity to, it's really been an opportunity. And I say this really from a tech startup perspective, to do a lot of sort of inward reflection, and sort of really critically analyze yourself, your business model, and I think when we look across the tech space, you're seeing sort of businesses become way more focused, spend way less on sort of non-core businesses, start to really rationalize and really focus in on what your core business is, have a clear path to profitability as well, because we don't know when the next crisis is around the corner. So I think if we're looking from that perspective, what is this presented a great opportunity to do? It's really to buckle down, really have a look at your business model and restart to focus on sort of what is important and what is not important, and move forward from there. And I think in some respects that's what we've done.
That's a great insight. Priorities, right? Making sure you're focusing on the right priorities and focusing on that. Right. That makes sense, and it sometimes takes for the whole world to be literally shaken by one of these huge events for us to realize, whoa, this is what I need to be focusing on.
That's right.
Better late than never.
Exactly.
All right. Okay. Hey, thank you very much for your time. This was a very interesting conversation. It's great to know, to how other fellow tech startups are coping with all of this, and your thoughts as the co-founder and CEO of Curlec. I love what you guys are doing, and serving the underserved, as you said, and giving the opportunity for SMEs to have more predictable revenue and more solidity in how they collect, and automation, and I think that's amazing. Keep it up. So
thanks, you too.
Thank you very much for your time. You've been very generous with your time, and we'll definitely keep in touch. Okay.
For sure. Thanks very much for having me, Kiku.
Thank you. My pleasure. And for everybody watching, thank you. And stay tuned for more. Bye-bye.
Bye.